Welcome, one and all. We're back. We're going to be doing Job 4 today. All right. Yeah. Let's do a little recap. So Job 1 and 2. Job 1, Satan takes away his family and his animals. And in Job 2, he covers him in boils. His wife tells him to curse God. And then his buddies are sitting there crying with him for 7 days and 7 nights while he's sitting there naked. And Job 3, what happens in Job 3? Job 3, he's just saying how he doesn't want to be born. Nothing new happens to him. Okay.
Yep.
You ready?
I'm ready when you are.
All right. Job 4, verse 1. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, if we essay to commune with thee, wilt thou be grieved? But who can withhold himself from speaking? Behold, thou hast instructed many, and thou hast strengthened the weak hands. Thy words have upholden him that was falling, and thou hast strengthened the feeble knees. But now it is come upon thee, and thou faintest. It toucheth thee, and thou art troubled. Is not this thy fear, thy confidence, thy hope, and the uprightness of thy ways? Remember, I pray thee, whoever perished being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off? So this guy, one of his buddies who's sitting there crying with him, he's saying to Job, basically, listen, whenever anything bad happens to us, you've always been there saying, be strong, and here you are, basically giving up. Not giving up, but you're starting to think that God has forsaken you.
Yeah.
Even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. By the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his nostrils are they consumed. And so now this is his buddy reassuring Job, like, hey, you need to stay strong here. The roaring of the lion and the voice of the fierce lion and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The old lion perisheth for lack of prey, and the stout lion's whelps are scattered abroad. Now a thing was secretly brought to me, and mine ear received a little thereof. In thoughts from the visions of the night, when deep sleep falleth on men, fear came upon me, and trembling, which made all my bones to shake. Then the spirit passed before my face, the hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern the form thereof. An image was before mine eyes, there was silence, and I heard a voice saying, shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his maker? Behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly. So this is,
yeah,
seems to be an angel. Could be Jesus, I suppose. Could be the Holy Spirit. Could be any number of things, but this is, he brings up that point that we are always talking about, that you bring up a lot, about how you can't think above your God. He says,
he says, shall mortal man be more just than God? You can't. It's not possible. It's not possible to think outside of your God. So when you start to rise above and actually call into question some of the things that a supposed God is doing, and you sit there and you're like, hey, listen, even me having, a fallible way about myself, I still feel as though I wouldn't make someone suffer for eternity. Just certain things like that where, like, I can't be more just than my God. I can't be. It's not even possible. Now, I wouldn't even have that thought unless, obviously, it had existed in me through my God. Now, meaning, you can't be more pure than your creator. That's it.
I'm not sure if that's what he's saying here. I'm not, I think maybe he's saying, who are you to question God's motives? because Job is out here like, why are you doing this to me? I don't deserve
Oh,
this.
no,
I would have done better.
No. This verse that shall mortal man be more than just, or be more just than God, has multiple meanings here.
For sure.
It has. So I was just touching on one point, like that point, meaning like you can't ever attain more justice than God. That's not possible.
But also you'd have to go with the line of reasoning that you just did. I think you would have to know everything to know whether your thoughts are more just than God's or not. To know what just is.
No, and this is where I disagree with that. So think about it in this way, okay? He says, I've written the laws on your hearts, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We innately know what is wrong and what is, what is right. It's innate in all of us, whether you're taught it or not. And
to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, so all you have to do is literally, and this is the only thing I actually agree with Kant on, is that categorical imperative where he states, hey, listen, if everyone in the world adopted everything you did, would you be able to survive? That's it. If everyone decided that they were going to rob and kill everyone in the world, what would happen? Would you survive or not?
The ugly. I would survive.
Or even if one person said, hey, I think the world could survive if everyone just pickpocketed everyone's wallet at all times.
Yeah, you're always going to have something.
Would that not be an adequate provocation for death? Because someone would shoot. And then death everywhere. So meaning like you can't supersede that thought. Meaning if you were to act a certain way and then everyone became accustomed to acting that certain way, what effect would it have on this world?
Right.
So that's how we know what is right and what is wrong, based on that principle alone.
That's a pretty solid idea.
Well, I mean, it was his one good thought. So yeah, hooray. Good job, Kant. You had one good thought.
You know all of his thoughts.
Dude, I've read his things and no one knows his thoughts. That guy is wild.
All right. So, behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly. How much less in them that dwell in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, which are crushed before the moth. They are destroyed from morning to evening. They perish forever without any regarding it. Does not their excellency, which is in them, go away? They die even without wisdom. That's pretty hard. That's a hard line right there. People are destroyed from morning to evening. Now, does that mean that their destruction, like the process of them being destroyed, lasts from morning to evening? They're tortured while they're destroyed.
Well, and all I think of,
they are in the state of having been destroyed.
I don't think that word, it can't mean destroyed, because destroyed means to completely dismember or disassemble something.
Well, why can't it mean that?
Because destruction happens, like, how are we defining destruction at this point? That's
goes from existing to not existing.
Okay, so you exist from morning, or you don't exist from morning to night?
I think he goes into saying they perish forever. So I think maybe he's talking about them being thrown into the lake of fire.
So perish means to death, right?
Yeah.
Die. They perish forever. They're dead forever.
Right.
Not an eternal damnation kind of thing.
No, they're not going to suffer.
They're dead.
Thrown into the lake of fire, and they go to sleep. Basically, it's like
oh, you just cease to exist.
Sleep without dreams.
Yeah, you cease to exist.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like
and those,
we're not aware of.
I think the ones that are not written in the book of life, those would be the NPCs, the fallen angels, the false prophets, and Satan. Those not written in the book of life. I think that all real people have a chance, like they're going to be saved eventually.
Yeah.
If you're an Enchantica or a Sarkic or an NPC, you're not. It's not possible.
Yeah,
you're not created by him.
I think we've talked about this before too. Like obviously, our consciousness creates reality. We see that with quantum mechanics and all those experiments. And so atheists, most of them believe, or they claim to believe, that when they die, nothing happens. It's like before we were born, how they don't experience anything.
I agree with that.
I think they're creating that reality for themselves. If
not creating. Remember, you can't think past your creator.
They will experience what they believe.
And I think that they actually innately know that's their end game. So like our end game, we understand that there's life after this place. They understand no life because that is what's going to happen to them.
And this isn't, I'm not claiming that every single atheist who claims that nothing happens after death is going into the lake of fire, because they might be saved at some point.
I don't think it's lake of fire. I think that they just cease to exist, and whatever that may mean.
Maybe lake of fire is some metaphor for that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, like when someone says that, they're going to get thrown into the lake of fire, the old Catholics are stating that, there's endless suffering.
No, I don't think that. Hell was created for the angels.
Yep, exactly.
And they were tied up for what, 70 generations?
What, bound for 70 generations?
Yeah.
Yep.
So they suffered, and then they came back out around 1900.
Well, the craziest thing is, I think it's Michael and Raphael are talking, and Raphael looks at him and he goes, no angel should have to endure the suffering that Semjaza is about to suffer. Like, they can't.
It's an Enoch?
That's an Enoch, because they're pleading with God. They're like, God, save us.
Yeah. Did they say Semjaza?
Semjaza.
Okay.
The leader of all of them.
Yeah, that's kind of, I tend to think he was the leader as well. I mean, there were what, 200 of them, and there were like 20 leaders.
I think I want to say 300, but that might be based on the Hindus' belief, because they said a bunch of gods came down on Mount whatever that mountain was.
Mount Hermon, right?
Mount Hermon. There it is.
And I think Enoch says 200, and there were
200.
There were 20 archons, or is that the word that they used?
Yeah, I think so.
And then I was stuck between Semjaza and
Azazel.
I think Azazel. Yeah. And I don't know if
Azazel is said to be out and about.
So maybe he's the one marching around like a lion.
Yeah, that's who I think that's who the goat is.
Could be Baphomet.
So remember, what did the Jews used to do in old times to relieve themselves of the sin?
They would sacrifice animals.
So once a year, they would sacrifice. That's why they call it the scapegoat. Okay. They'd actually take a goat, cast all their sins on it, and let it run free. And they would toss it into like the desert there. And they would cast all their sins on it. That's why in some of the books it says, Lucifer or Azazel was the scapegoat. Like, they're saying that they placed all the blame on this one guy, but that's not true. You know, Lucifer wasn't the bad one. You know, he chose to not. What? But yes, so, but that's what they do. It's the scapegoat. And that's why whenever you're talking to a Luciferian, he's going to say, you got it all backwards. Lucifer was the good one. They actually just blamed him for no reason.
That's kind of what it is. Like, I read the Satanic Bible a few months ago. I finished it, and the start of it is kind of saying that. It's like talks about Anton LaVey's origin story, how he was a lion tamer in the San Francisco circus, and how he came to realize that Satan was really the good guy and the Christians were bad. And they said that they just put all these lies on Satan so that they didn't have to deal with their problems. When in reality, later in the book, he's basically saying, yeah, if someone wrongs you, go ahead and kill them.
Like, slay them. Where have we heard
that?
Where have we heard that before?
The cow chapter.
The cow chapter. Slay them.
Slay them.
Oh
yeah. As soon as you start saying slay them, we know you're lost.
Yes. Yeah. That's not our shepherd speaking there.
Because it's like that is probably the most basic moral law that's written on our hearts, that humans all have intrinsic value.
Yeah, and this just, it keeps leading me back to this one point that I keep bringing up, but it's only because I'm trying to drive the point home to you. The multiple or the tube creation theory, like all of the scripture lines up with that exactly. Like how Jesus speaks, those that hear my voice, they're my sheep, right? He's like,
yeah,
my sheep hear my voice. Wait a second. Then who are the other people?
Right. It's like, I always thought it was weird how God had a chosen people. Like first it was the Jews, but we know, I mean, that's not the Most High.
No.
That God is proud and envious and jealous and all these things. And that's not the Most High. So it kind of made sense that he had just a portion. And it's weird to think that only some people are God's chosen.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense. And I don't think that's how it works.
Right.
I think if you were created by God, by your very nature, you will come back to him. We're put here for a reason. This prison that we're in, we're leaving it, but we're put here for a reason. Maybe it's a spiritual enlightenment. Maybe we did something to deserve it for a time.
Okay, now let me ask you what you think about this. If we are created to love him, is that real love? If we don't freely choose it, if we don't have the option to not?
I don't necessarily know what that means though. Like people say that all the time, and they bring this point up as if love has anything to do with anything.
It has everything to do with everything. What do you mean?
Well, no. And people are throwing that term around like as if like, is that free will? If you love him and he forced you to love, there was no forcing. You were in his presence, which already automatically, innately that you love him. He knows that you're going to choose him.
Right. There's no forcing, but we were created to love him.
Huh?
We were created to love him. Or it.
Well, no, not necessarily. So it's so, and they call it whenever the angels are born from Christ. Okay. They say, holy crap. Like, I want to be like him. They envy him. That's why they circle him, the stars, everything. They sing and rejoice whenever he's around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a love that you're thinking of. It's not like, oh, I can attain something from this guy. No, It's literally you're in his presence, and his mere presence like makes you want to like get down on your knees and just praise him.
I know.
That's no, but you're saying like love.
I'm saying
Love,
that feeling you're explaining right now, we were created to feel that.
we weren't created to feel that. That's not what we were created for. It just happened
That's part of
by
our
his
nature.
very, yeah, our nature, by our very nature.
So
that's what happens.
We were created to feel that.
To feel that way when in the presence of him.
Yeah. So we never had the choice to not feel that way in his presence.
So yeah, no.
Is that real? Is that feeling real then? Does it matter? I don't know. I'm just asking these questions. I don't know.
I'm asking. I don't know why it wouldn't be.
I'm asking these questions for the first time. Like I've never thought about.
So when you read the Apocrypha of John, or let's just take the 7 sermons to the dead, that when they're talking about this guy that is up there or that encompasses all, he emanates Christ outside of his, or he has a thought. That thought then in the womb creates Christ. Christ then creates everything else. Okay. Everything else envies Christ. They want to be like Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to create. Remember. So no, I don't know if that necessarily means anything when someone says, well, did he force us? No, there's no forcing, but you're created with love inside of you. You're created with that concept of love, which then in turn, when you actually truly feel love, because he gives you perfect love, God gives you perfect love. Therefore, you automatically love him because you don't feel any other love from anyone but that. Like, meaning like that love is different.
It envelops all other love.
It literally engulfs you with his love, which means like you have a choice, but you don't, like, essentially, because
I don't think you have a choice to do anything at that point. Like when you're fully loved by God in a moment, you felt it. You can't do anything. You're just like, it's bliss.
Yeah. You just, yeah. And that's, so like when someone loves you, and let's just take human nature, like when someone else loves you, that like, that does something to you. You know what I mean? Like there's like a love you feel, which makes you love them back. Like not necessarily love them back, but like, you're like, I love this person. Like, I don't want to ever, not be with that person. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like things like that. Now imagine an overwhelming, overpowerful, just like, omnipotent God giving you all his love. What would that feel like?
It would feel pretty cool.
Exactly. So yes, you do have a choice not to love that, but why would you ever say no to that? It would make no sense.
It wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm going to deny that good feeling you're giving me.
Yeah, I guess that, I mean, the the idea that like, even if we did, maybe we do have the choice to not love him. And we all just have enough sense to choose to love him.
It would make no sense not to. That's the thing. Like, I think you do, but like in a sense you don't. Like, because like it's our nature. Whatever's in our spirit is ingrained because it's his creation. He has his finger on it. Meaning like, that this isn't your home. You know that you want to go back to him, but you don't know why, because you can't remember what it was like. Like you can just like, you can't comprehend exactly what is going on, but you know that you want to get back to that feeling.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what it feels like, but you want to get back to it. And that's the craziest part. But I'm going to read the Bible. I'm going to reread the whole New Testament with that mindset of the two creation theory. I think that fits. I don't know if it doesn't fit. Like it would make sense, and it fits with all the other world religions too.
Well, who created the other ones then?
Yodabov.
But that Yodabov is of God.
Okay, so so yes, of God, but of a lower. So if Christ is creating everything and then someone else goes off on their own and creates something,
well,
probably not going to be as perfect as Christ.
That's like me creating a being in my own thoughts.
Yeah, which would suck.
Yeah, it would be very imperfect.
Imperfect, yes.
But, and I guess that actually fits. That fits, dude. That fits perfectly. That idea. Because whatever being I create in my thoughts, eventually it'll cease to exist.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good thing. So, in one of the Gnostic texts, it actually says Jesus loses his way for a moment in time. Okay. And remember, consciousness creates reality. So he's having these thoughts and they're coming to him and he's creating these imperfect beings. And the more imperfect they are, the more in turmoil he gets. And he starts creating more and more imperfect. Okay. Now, I think it's a metaphor for something. I think this is a negative thought that creates an outcome or draws you to a certain outcome. And then you go, see, I told you that was going to happen. And then continuation of bad thought, conclusion, bad thought, conclusion, bad thought, conclusion, right, leading you down to an absolute. But then it says, Jesus comes to grips and says, listen, I'm creating these things. I need to regain my composure. This isn't, and then that's what happens.
This is definitely a metaphor.
Oh, it's 100% a metaphor.
It's explaining to us how to control our minds.
Yeah. A lot of the Gnostic texts are all about the mind, like the Apocrypha of John, all about the mind.
Yeah.
Think about every single thing. And I think it's because we're in the mind of God, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So essentially everything would be controlled by or put into the program to be like, I guess, essentially, set up like a mind, maybe. I don't know. Compartmentalized stuff. And that's why, I don't know.
Nobody knows.
No, but I'm kind of liking this theory. I got to meditate on that whole Jesus going down to hell. And like, it might be because his literal true light, he has to give it up. He literally has to give it up to go down there because he cannot be contained in hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that would make sense because right before he went down there, God forsook him.
Yeah.
Like the moment before. But all right.